Here are today's headlines. At least 600 overseas Filipino workers returned home from Kuwait, the largest batch so far to be repatriated. Malacanang rejects a report by U.S. intelligence citing President Duterte as a threat to democracy. India expresses interest in becoming a major telco player in the Philippines. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines hails the confirmation of a new Filipino ambassador to the Vatican. Good day, I'm Pia Rosas Morato. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The largest batch of OFWs repatriated from Kuwait arrived on Wednesday, while TESDA has committed to provide technical vocational courses for the OFWs to help with their livelihood. Here's our report.
At least 600 overseas Filipino workers from Kuwait came home in one batch Wednesday morning. Ambassador to Kuwait Renato Villas said that 600 overseas workers who came home on Wednesday was the largest recorded repatriation carried out in a single day. The latest batch brings the total number of Filipino workers who have asked to be repatriated after availing of the amnesty program provided by the Kuwaiti government to 1,796. Among the repatriated Filipinos were 68 mothers and children and 12 wards rescued by the embassy. In a related development, the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority said the agency would prioritize the repatriated OFWs in its free technical vocational courses. TESDA Director General Giling Mamundyong said he has instructed all TESDA district, provincial, and regional directors to provide retraining assistance to the distressed OFWs from Kuwait. Free training, assessment, training support fund, food and transportation allowance of 100 pesos per day await the repatriated OFWs. As of December 2017, TESDA has already provided technical assistance to more than 2,000 OFWs and their dependents. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
Kuwait announced that it is extending its amnesty for overstaying Filipino workers. Ambassador to Kuwait Renato Villas said the amnesty program was extended by 2 months until April 22 from its original deadline set on Thursday. The order for the extension of the 3-week amnesty was signed on Tuesday by Kuwait Interior Minister Sheikh Khalid Al-Jarrah Al-Sabah. The decision came less than a week after Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano formally conveyed the extension request to Kuwaiti Ambassador Musaid Al-Thuaik in Manila. Cayetano said the extension is being requested to allow the embassy to accommodate more of the 10,000 Filipinos believed to have overstayed their visas or ran away from their employers, as only close to 3,000 of those qualified have applied so far. He stressed the DFA remains in close coordination with Labor Secretary Sylvester Bello III and the Department of Labor and Employment to ensure successful negotiations with the Kuwaiti government to improve protection mechanisms for the more than 250,000 Filipinos working there. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board filed a case against public transport group leader George San Mateo for initiating transport strikes to protest the government's PUV modernization program last year. The LTFRB complained that the president of Piston allegedly encouraged jeepney drivers and operators not to provide their services to commuters during Piston's transport strikes last year. The LTFRB said PUV operators should not cease their operations as a means to protest against any government action. Piston's transport strikes were also allegedly made to threaten the officials of the LTFRB and the Department of Transportation to cease the implementation of the modernization program. Piston has been urging the government to junk the modernization plan, saying it would only benefit private corporate interests. Piston instead proposed a people-oriented and nationalized mass transport system that would include all transportation stakeholders in the country. President Duterte is considering the entry of India's prospective major player in the Philippine telco industry and extended his invitation for other Indian businessmen to invest in the country. Here's our report.
President Rodrigo Duterte said India is interested to be a new major player in the Philippine telecommunications industry. During the induction of the new board of directors of the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce in Malacanang, Duterte said he had invited India to invest in the local telco industry in talks with Indian businessmen during his official visit there last month. Duterte wants to fast-track the entry of a third player by March this year to improve telco services in the country and promote competition. The president assured Indian businessmen that there would be ease of doing business in the Philippines, including faster transaction times, while urging them to report cases of corruption and red tape. Duterte also said he would protect businesses as long as they pay their taxes. Telco companies from China, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan have already signified their interest to invest in the country, while smaller local telcos are planning to form their own consortia with foreign partners. The Department of Information and Communications Technology earlier released guidelines for prospective bidders, which include 60% Filipino ownership, no affiliation to any telco group, technical capability, and a net worth of 10 billion pesos. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Bench Bondok.
The mayor of Legazpi City is reminding all Mayon evacuees to strictly follow the smoke-free policy in the public schools currently serving as their temporary shelters. Mayor Noel Rosal said that some of the evacuees were seen smoking in the centers. The city implements a revised smoke-free ordinance approved 9 years ago, which bans cigarette smoking in the city's public places. Rosal directed ordinance enforcers and the city's social welfare and development to ask evacuees to stop puffing cigarettes in the compound and in their respective rooms. He also instructed the enforcing team to monitor the people in the evacuation centers and explain to them the penalties imposed on violators of the smoke-free ordinance. For 3 consecutive years starting in 2010, Legazpi was a recipient of the yearly Red Orchid Award accorded to local government units and other public institutions which have successfully implemented the anti-smoking drive. In 2012, this city was named into the Hall of Fame of the DOH Red Orchid Awards. Still to come, Malacanang rejects a report by U.S. intelligence citing President Duterte as a threat to democracy. The Mindanao State University leads a Solidarity Peace Walk to call for the passage of the Bangsamoro Basic Law. These and more when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Mahigit 70 na mga individual na displaced o IDPs mula sa Marawi City ang nakumpleto na ang programang pagsasanay ng capacity building ng pagsasanay sa ilalim ng Technical Education and Skills Development Authority o TESDA. Ang mga benepisyaryo ng IDP, mga opisyal ng TESDA, mga kinatawan ng lokal na pamahalaan ng Marawi, mga tauhan ng operasyon ng construction ng FIAT at mga opisyal ng Task Force Bangon Marawi Field Office ay dumalo sa awarding ng mga sertipiko at seremonyal na pamamahagi ng mga toolkit sa Regional Training Center sa Iligan City. Sinabi ni TESDA Provincial Director Tarhata Mapandi na ang programa ay naglalayong magbigay ng sustainable livelihood preparation para sa mga biktima ng Marawi Siege. Tinitiyak ni Mapandi na ang TESDA ay nakatuon na maghatid ng serya ng pagsasanay kahit na sa ibang munisipalidad na malapit sa Marawi City upang magbigay ng buong suporta sa mga IDP at mga industriya ng konstruksyon. Samantala, ayon kay Abdul Jalil Mangoranda, isang recipient ng training na ang programa ay kapaki-pakinabang sa pagbawi ng mga residente ng Marawi sa mga tuntunin ng paghahanda para sa mga aktibidad sa kabuhayan sa kanilang komunidad.
Ito po ay isa ring malaking may tutulong sa mga taga Marawi, lalo na po sa buong lalawigan ng Lanao del Sur. Pag nagkaroon po ng katuparan yung tinatawag nilang mga training course na gagawin sa lahat ng municipality ng Lanao del Sur para po matuto o mabigyan ng sapat na trainings yung mga tao natin doon para po sa mabilisang pagbangon ng Marawi at saka Lanao del Sur.
Tinitiyak ng TESDA sa mga benepisyaryo na ang ahensya ay nakatuon upang suportahan ang mabilis na rehabilitasyon ng lungsod. Para sa bayan, Sweet Lukman, Philippine Information Agency.
Malacanang rejected a report of the U.S. intelligence community tagging President Duterte as a threat to democracy. The palace pointed out that the president follows the rule of law above all. Here's our report.
Malacanang rejected the worldwide threat assessment of the U.S. intelligence community report dated February 12, stating that President Rodrigo Duterte suggested he could suspend the Constitution and declare a revolutionary government or martial law. Citing a Freedom House report, the U.S. Intel report also listed the Philippines as one of the governments that use propaganda and misinformation in social media to influence foreign and domestic audiences. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, however, described the report as myopic and speculative at best, stressing that the president adheres to the rule of law. He acknowledged that the administration uses social media to promote government messages and accomplishments, but noted that the opposition and other cause-oriented groups, both here and in the United States, do the same. Roque explained that there is no autocracy in the Philippines since the media is still able to broadcast and print what they want, including fake news. He also said that the Philippine judiciary and the courts are functioning, legislature remains independent, and basic services are still being delivered. In an earlier TV interview, Roque, a human rights advocate, said he would not join Duterte's cabinet if the president, a lawyer himself, was a threat to human rights. Duterte previously criticized the U.S. for expressing concern over his aggressive campaign against illegal drugs, noting that he would not take orders from the country's former colonizer. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Abs Abando.
President Duterte hosted another dinner in Malacanang for the second batch of former New People's Army rebels who surrendered to the government. The 241 former NPA members who traveled to Manila from Davao City were part of the 683 rebels from different parts of eastern Mindanao that were presented to the president last December in Panacan, Davao City. Prior to their dinner with the president, they interacted with other former NPA members who are now advocates of peace and development. Eastmincom spokesperson Major Ezra Balagtay said the government is continually reintegrating the former rebels into mainstream society. Balagtay said the trip of the third batch of the former rebels is now being worked out with the Appointments Office of the President. Reforms on tax and transportation in the country have opened more opportunities for electric vehicle players. Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines President Romel Juan said the train law promotes the use of e-vehicles in the country by exempting them from excise tax while imposing higher taxes on fossil fuel vehicles. Juan said that the exception will allow industry players to consider lowering the price of e-vehicles. The EVAP chief added that the PUV modernization program also offers opportunities to manufacturers as the government pushes for eco-friendly transportation. Juan said that with the modernization of PUVs, e-vehicle assemblers could take a share in replacing some 200,000 outdated jeepneys in the country. Juan also noted developments in the local sector, including private sector investments to set up e-vehicle charging stations in strategic locations. The EVAP chief was one of the panelists in Nissan Futures in Singapore last week, wherein a study of Frost and Sullivan showed that the Philippines is at the top of ASEAN's list in terms of willingness to buy an e-vehicle. The paralegal group Balaod Mindanao will hold a month-long anti-human trafficking drive next month in Cagayan de Oro City. The campaign kicks off with a photo exhibit at Centerio Mall from March 6 to 7 and an advocacy concert at Limket Kai Atrium the day after on March 8. Balaod Mindanao Executive Director Ritzley Santos III said the campaign aims to promote the prevention of human trafficking by providing legal awareness and education to high school students, out-of-school youth, parents, teachers, and other stakeholders. The organization is also planning to intensify and broaden its awareness campaign through a video making contest, an extemporaneous speech contest, and jingle contest. The video making contest alone will be participated by 52 schools. Santos said human trafficking still exists in Cagayan de Oro City and its nearby areas in northern Mindanao. Balaud Mindanao works with marginalized sectors and communities through mainstreaming alternative lawyering and paralegalism. The Mindanao State University led a solidarity peace walk to call for the passage of the Bangsamoro Basic Law as a means to achieve peace in Mindanao. Here's our report.
The Mindanao State University, United Nations Development Program or UNDP, Institute for Peace and Development in Mindanao, and the consortium of the Bangsamoro Civil Society, along with the Heavenly Culture World Peace Restoration of Life, comprises and promotes the Solidarity Peace Walk with the theme Promoting Peace and Preventing Violent Extremism through the passage of the Bangsamoro Basic Law. The said activity is led by Mindanao State University System President Dr. Habib Makaayong and attended by faculties, staffs, students, and various civil society organizations. The Peace Walk aims to promote peace throughout Mindanao. According to CBCS Chairperson Giamil Alim,
ito po ay ang aming pakikisa, pakikiramay, pagmamalasakit sa nangyari sa ating mga kapatid na Maranao at isang panawagan po rin ito na atin nang gawin ang lahat ng ating kayang gawin para tapusin yung mga karahasan dito sa Mindanao. Kailangan po natin dito para tayo'y umunlad. Kailangan natin tingnan ang mga structural obstacles, structural violence na siyang nagiging problema sa ating kaunlaran. Bigyan din natin ng pagkakataon ang Bangsamoro Basic Law na ngayon ay pinag-uusapan sa Kongreso na may pasa upang makatulong sa paghahanap ng kapayapaan at kaunlaran.
Meanwhile, Autonomous Region for Muslim Mindanao Regional Vice Governor Harun Al-Rashid Alonto Lucman supported the Peace Walk as MSUan with a great desire for peace. According to him, here he learned the wisdom of the struggle. This is the place where the Bangsamoro is formed into a responsible citizen and understands the historicity of the struggle. Lucman added the Marawi siege is only part of the history of the Bangsamoro. The Bangsamoro is a system, not just a race, not just a group of people, but it is a predated government system or the first Philippine government, the first organized government through the Sultanate. For PNA Newsroom, Sweet Lucman, Philippine Information Agency.
Up next, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines hails a confirmation of a new Filipino ambassador to the Vatican. A Filipino athlete is set to join a marathon at the North Pole. These and more when the PNA Newsroom returns. The National Press Club dismissed speculations that President Duterte ordered the barring of a Rappler reporter from covering Malacanang. The Department of Justice, meanwhile, insisted that the president did not violate press freedom. Here's our report.
The National Press Club is doubtful that President Rodrigo Duterte ordered the exclusion of Rappler reporter Pia Ranada from covering the Malacanang beat. Rappler released a report stating that according to Malacanang's internal House Affairs Office head, Jopia Vansenia, it was Duterte who ordered Ranada and Rappler CEO Maria Ressa from entering the palace. The NPC also criticized some palace personnel, saying that the decision to bar Ranado was uncalled for and a disservice to their principal, President Duterte, and his administration. And while the NPC welcomed the assurance that Rappler reporter Pia Ranada may still cover the palace, the NPC cautioned that reporters should also avoid having a culture of entitlement. Meanwhile, Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre said the Office of the President did not commit any violation of press freedom under the 1987 Constitution. Aguirre said media personnel are still required to comply with proper accreditation. The DOJ chief further pointed out that freedom of the press, while constitutionally protected, has its limits under the law. Aguirre said that the National Bureau of Investigation is also conducting its probe on foreign ownership in the media outfit funded by foreign firms Omidyar Network and North Base Media. Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea said that Rappler should settle its ownership issue at the SEC first before its reporters are allowed to cover Malacanang. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Plain Cervantes.
The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines hailed the confirmation of Grace Relucia Princesa as Philippine Ambassador to the Vatican. Episcopal Commission on Migrant and Itinerant People Chair Bishop Ruperto Santos thanked the Commission on Appointments for confirming the new representative of the Philippines to the Vatican. He said Nanay Amba, as she is lovingly called by overseas Filipino workers in the Middle East, will be great help to Filipinos. Princesa earlier expressed gratitude to President Rodrigo Duterte for nominating her to the post. Princesa is a Foreign Service graduate of the University of the Philippines and has worked for 20 years in the Philippine Diplomatic Service. The new Philippine envoy to the Holy See also served as Assistant Secretary of the Foreign Affairs Department's Legislative Liaison Unit. A Filipino athlete will try to endure the cold weather of the North Pole as he joins the FWD North Pole Marathon on April 9. 40-year-old Luis Sangalang, a cancer survivor who turned into sports to get his full strength back, will be the first Filipino to run a full 42-kilometer race throughout the northernmost point of the world. Aside from running, Sangalang is also into cycling, swimming, and mixed martial arts, where he once held the Universal Reality Combat Championship featherweight belt, aside from his running and triathlon trophies. He is trained by personal coach Ige Lopez, renowned triathlon coach Annie Brown, Mount Everest conqueror Romy Garduse, and Sam Gogna, a TV and radio host who also is a marathon runner. Sangalan's team will depart from Tromsø, Norway on March 30 to start the acclimatization phase, then head to the long-year buy-in for the final stages of preparation before going to the North Pole for the race itself. Shoppers in Ilocos Norte are in for a treat as a farming company is set to open its doors to those who want to experience harvesting and buying fresh lettuce. Here's our report.
A certified organic farming company in Batac City, Ilocos Norte is opening its farm to the public for its Pick and Pay promo. Customers will be allowed to go around the farm, pick locally grown lettuce themselves, and pay for their harvests. Romaine Organics, owned by the Ganiron family, is located in Barangay Benagan, Batac City, and run by John Lay and his father Romeo, both multi-awarded farmer entrepreneurs in the locality. John Lay, a farm management supervisor of Romaine Organics, said the price of their organic and hydroponic lettuce is currently pegged at 250 pesos per kilogram. Lay said most of their customers are owners of restaurants in Lawag and nearby towns, while some are neighbors who simply enjoy picking fresh salad ingredients. Aside from lettuce, the farm also produces microgreens and other high-value crops such as Chinese kangkong, eggplant, squash, bell pepper, banana, dragon fruit, and carabao mango. Romaine Organics is also engaged in poultry, native hog production, and the culture of inland fish such as tilapia and hito, and maintains a nursery for high-value crop seedlings. The Ganirons also produce mushrooms, azolla, duckweed, herbal insecticide, and organic fertilizers through vermin composting, fermented juices, and biospray concoctions. Meanwhile, Romaine Organics School for Practical Agriculture is accepting students who want to learn about organic farming. With the help of the Agriculture Training Institute, the Batac's local government, Department of Agriculture, and other support organizations. It is open to interested farmers or agriculture students 18 years old and above. The training is free. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Liza Agoot.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Here's another look at today's headlines. At least 600 overseas Filipino workers returned home from Kuwait, the largest batch so far to be repatriated. Malacanang rejects a report by U.S. intelligence citing President Duterte as a threat to democracy. India expresses interest in becoming a major telco player in the Philippines. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines hails the confirmation of a new Filipino ambassador to the Vatican. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and all that it is doing for the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the hottest news and the latest information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Pia Rosas Morato. Good day.